For this granite scratch removal and polishing project, I used the NSI Granite Polishing Kit with the 3-inch floating turbos. You can see the redeemer pads in the photo. I did use them, but had limited success with them in this project and switched to a 4-inch Alpha Ceramica 1000, 2000, and 3000. What you see here is the NSI turbos 150 through 1000 and 3-inch drive plate on a Makita 9227C. MB20 and a white pad on a 7-inch NSI quick change adapter drive plate. Not pictured as a 3-inch white pad and adapter drive plate I used later in the repair to polish with MB20 around the lamp that you can't see. It's obstructed by the tools. You will need a squirt bottle as well as a squeegee and microfiber towels. I have already masked around the repair. The appropriate tapes and plastics on your repairs will save you a lot of time when it comes to details. When evaluating a scratch, the starting grid is super important. If you start too high, you may have to do areas over and feather them out, and as a result, your repair area becomes larger than you intended. There are some risks to starting too low as well, such as waviness and rogue scratches caused by rocking of the machine. But as you develop your skills, these concerns lessen, and you will be able to start lower and actually reduce the time of your repairs. The scratches on this slab were minimal, but I want to make sure that I remove them fully on the first pass. So I started with the NSI 300 grit turbo pad. I outlined the repair area first with a wax pencil. This defines the area and makes it visible when you spray water on it. When outlining the area, you want to look carefully and make sure that you have all of the scratches in your workspace. At the same time, you want to keep your initial workspace as small as possible. To start, spray a liberal amount of water on the repair area and put your machine head flat on the surface. Start your machine and hold it so that you are placing direct pressure down on the arbor of the machine. The Makita 9227C has little slots in the head so that you can put your fingers in there. The new Makitas have a plastic covering on the head that prevents that, but it is removable. Run your 300 pads thoroughly to ensure complete removal of the scratches. I like to run my turbo diamond grits at the slowest speed. I keep the dial set to 1. Run your machine from left to right or in the direction of the machine spin. I run it in circular motions from left to right as well. This will keep the water in the repair area so that it does not fling out and dry under your diamond, causing machine wobble. This is a pretty large area. When we're finishing a scratch or a seam in a home, you'll have a smaller area. Look at the machine when I set it down. The diamond is a ring, which means there are no diamonds in the middle of the pad, so all your work is happening on the outside edge of that diamond, even though it is a 3-inch diamond. Take that into account when you're defining your repair area so that you can use the full functionality of your diamonds. I have found that these granite diamonds to be the best for this type of repair. If you have other diamonds, you can use them in the same manner to achieve similar results. As professionals, our quality is always limited to our skill set and the tools that we have, so consider using these diamonds for your repairs. With each grit, you will define your repair area with a wax pencil or crayon and run in a similar manner. Each grit must remove the scratches from the previous grit. So when you are using wax pencil, make sure that your line is outside of the previous scratch pattern from the previous grit. When running the machine in the repair area, you will want to concentrate first along the outside of the area and then work your way in. I like to leave the line there until the end, until I'm satisfied that I have the hone that I needed and I've removed all the scratches from the previous grit. I will then run my diamond slowly around the outside of the area to remove the line, but also to create a new line with using the current grit. And I tend to know when I am done by the feel of the machine, but you can define the number of passes you want to use if you wish. This can be a little dangerous when defining the number of passes because some granites are harder than others, and some quartzites are super hard as well. Very soft granites don't need as many passes, and very hard granites might need a few more. So it's best to learn to feel when the diamonds stop cutting. Here's a little bit about scratch patterns. With practice, you'll be able to recognize the finish of each grit. To learn to recognize the scratch pattern and different lower grit scratches from a higher grit hone or higher grit scratch pattern, I would recommend using a scrap piece of granite and putting a 50 or 150 grit scratch pattern in it to study the texture. Recognize the distance between the scratches and the depth of the scratches. Then hit the piece with a 500 or 300 grit lightly. Not much, not enough to remove the full scratch pattern, but enough to put an even 300 or 500 grit hone on the surface. And then study the surface to recognize the difference in the distance between the scratches and the depth of the scratches. You can see also the size of the scratches is different as well. Scratches are always going to be relative to the previous grit and the next grit. So understanding scratch patterns is going to help you immensely to be a better technician. Also, between grits, look closely at the work area for rogue scratches. The best place to look for rogue scratches is the outside edge of the workspace and on any place on the piece where you let your machine chatter. Chattering causes the edges of the diamond to dig, and chattering is the sudden uncontrollable wobbling of the diamond pad on the stone. And this usually happens when there is not enough water between the pad and the stone, or if you are holding your machine in such a way that the diamond is not consistently flat on the surface. I've taught a lot of technicians in hands-on classes, and this is the most common mistake that we can correct. If you are not able to hold your machine flat, you may want to consider using 4-inch pads, and there are several brands out there for this. 4-inch pads extend the size of your work area though, and can take longer because your PSI is less, but they are easier to keep flat on the surface. 1000 is the last 3-inch turbo pad you see us use here. Some pros like to go higher with the turbos. They do have the 2000 and a 3000 grit, and they can definitely help you achieve a polish if you are unsure about your skills with the resins, or you want your resins to not to have to work so hard. The method you are seeing me perform here has been used by me several hundred times, so I can safely say that you don't need to worry about your resins if they will do the job or not. You just need to take the time to learn how to exploit them to get the most work out of them. You're going to see clean lines on this piece suddenly become hazy. That is because I initially used the NSI Redeemer pads, the 1000 through the 3000, to finish this off. I didn't get the results that I was looking for. But before I criticize these pads, I have to admit that they are new to me, and I have not used them very much. With every innovation in tooling, there is a competence level that must be achieved to use them right. So I will continue to put these pads through the ringer until I have a conclusion either way that they are useful to me. At this point, I will keep recommending the use of the Alpha Ceramica to finish this repair. I was expecting the same finish after 1000 Redeemer as the 1000 Alpha, but that did not happen. In fact, I didn't get a very good shine after the 3000, so I went back and redid the whole area with Alpha 1000, and it worked flawless. When using the Alpha resins, you work them wet to dry as shown here. Work in sections, and as the water under your pad starts to haze, apply a little more pressure and work the surface until you achieve an even finish. I like to keep the Makita level 1, but I do tend to turn it up as the haze develops a little bit. I have found that it takes less downward pressure and can yield fantastic results. Going as high as between 2 and 3 on the Makita is fine. With these pads, you can run them several times over the same area, and when you stop seeing an improvement in the shine, you want to move on to the next area and blend as possible. You can see the light in the background that is covered with plastic and tape here. With obstructions like this, you want to make sure that you run your resin diamond as close to them as possible to remove the previous grit and blend with the surface. There's no need to get close if you have your previous scratch pattern that is not that close, but in this case, I blended right up to the light. If you don't run them right up to the edge thoroughly enough, you will see a halo effect around the light or around any other obstruction that will be difficult to remove with your MB20 polishing paste. Run your alpha resins in such a way to remove the clean line from the 1000 grit NSI turbo pads. When you do this right, you will be able to see better shine and color in the refinished area, and the finish will slowly dissolve into a haze surrounding your work area, and that haze will slowly dissolve into the factory finish of the surrounding area. In a kitchen, you'll be able to see the light bulbs and the shine. Some loose grain granites can get sanding dust stuck in the fissures or pores, so doing a quick wet run may help reduce that. So you don't always need to use 2000 and 3000 grit ceramicas, but I choose to do so on this repair. Not because I was worried about getting the shine, that's actually pretty easy because the stone is easy to polish, this stone in particular. But this is an exterior repair with a dark granite, and the surface was starting to get hot from the sun. MB20 can be tricky on exterior hot surfaces, and I didn't want the MB20 to have to work that hard to achieve the shine I was looking for. So running the 2000 and 3000 grit created much more depth and clarity in the finish so that when I ran my 2000 MB20, the deep color and shine was achieved much faster and with less effort. Okay, so on to the MB20. Most of us already know how to polish granite counters with MB20. You've probably seen a couple of these classes already and seen some demonstrations online. This repair was outside in direct sunlight, so I used a water bottle to keep it wet. I don't always do this on interior counters. I usually just like to use the material itself. And I also tend to use a 5-inch polishing head on interior repairs because it throws less material around. This was an exterior repair, so I used a 7-inch, and I didn't get much splatter actually as well. I like to apply a liberal amount of MB20 to the pad and start the pad on low speed in a concentrated area. If I'm using a 7-inch pad, I will increase the speed as it starts to haze up and burn it in with no downward pressure on the machine. It takes a couple of times to achieve the finish we are looking for here, but the results will be a factory finish. Remember that the 7-inch pad provides a lot more friction than smaller pads, so a water bottle helps to reduce those light swirl marks that can be left behind. A quick squirt with water and a few passes with the machine, and then the quick removal of the slurry with a microfiber before it dries will provide a streak-free finish. You do the same when working with MB20 around obstructions or in a small area. A 3-inch NSI Velcro backer pad is perfect for running MB20 on these areas. In a kitchen, you may want to run a small pad like this around the back of a sink or on bull noses. When using a 3-inch pad, you can run the machine at a higher speed because the smaller diameter means the outside edge is running slower than the outside edge of a larger diameter drive plate. So it is not going to throw the polish around as much. I like to use a white pad because it has more contact with the surface. Some technicians like hog's hair. That is okay too, but I've found that it takes longer for the pad to work well because it takes time for the hog's hair pad to load up with compound. A white pad loads quickly. One drawback to white pads is that if you use too much MB20, it will take a long time to haze up because the pad absorbs the material at a slower rate than a hog's hair, especially when it's loaded up. Because the hog's hair pads have more texture in them and can capture more of the polish. If you do use a hog's hair, let it load up and use the pad for a while. When it gets loaded, you can just use water in a pinch and elevate the shine of any granite countertop. As you can see, the scratches are gone and the surface has been returned to a factory finish. The customer was very happy, and the dedication of this memorial was not affected by imperfections in the finish. I hope the families were happy with how the memorial was presented. We're honored to be part of it.